In one click here, this image has gone from something that the client would be like, yeah, that's my barn, to, yeah, that's my barn. I love that barn. This doesn't look great. Make the studio blue. Okay, how we looking? All right, now we're YouTubing. Oh, that's not a great cup. Welcome to the studio at night. Hello, hi, if you are new to the channel, my name is Jesse Driftwood. I make internet videos primarily here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, I don't know. I've been a professional photographer now for about 10 years. I think my first weddings were in 2010. It's 2020. Math. One thing you have probably picked up on if you have seen my work is I am very easily distracted. And one of these tools that's been incredible for me over the last year is an app called Luminar. Now this video is sponsored by Skylum, so with that said, this isn't going to be a full in-depth review. What this is me showing you a piece of software that has been incredibly beneficial to me over the last, well, almost a year, a little bit shy of a year. This time last year, I found myself just getting really bored and sick of my own image editing workflow, so I started searching out other pieces of software that could spice up my work a little bit. Just something simple, because, well, one, I find learning new software is actually a really good tool to strengthen your skill sets and also rediscover things that you've forgotten about. But more than that, I was looking for something that would really streamline my workflow. And so Luminar AI, which is officially announced, publicly available today, December 15th, 2020. And that's what I wanna dive into. That's what I wanna walk you through, because I think you're gonna be very impressed. I wanted a variety of shots here to show you, because this isn't just like a landscape tool. This isn't just a portrait tool. This is a very smart and versatile tool. And while Luminar AI is available as a Photoshop plugin, as a Lightroom plugin, the way I like to use it is as a standalone application. So from the beginning, you can import up here with this plus, and you can either add a folder of images or you can edit just a single image. So let's start with this. It's an image of some palm trees and a big blue sky in Saint Martin when I was there, I don't know, some time ago shooting a wedding. So right across the top here, we've got catalog. Obviously that's your images. I can hit spacebar here and jump in and out of a single image. But once I've chosen the image to edit, we're gonna jump over first to templates. So you load up the templates folder here, and the first thing it's gonna do is actually give you some suggested templates. And you might be thinking to yourself, what? Well, how is it suggesting templates? And this is what makes Luminar AI so unique. What it's doing is actually 3D mapping and using machine learning and AI in order to understand as many, if not all, aspects of your image as possible. So it's figuring out subjects, backgrounds, foregrounds, depth, focal length, all that information in order to help you edit. So from here, the first thing it's gonna give you is what's called easy landscapes. Okay, so I'm just gonna click the easy landscapes here, and let's just see what it does. First of all, we click long exposure. I mean, looks pretty great already. We're done. And if you want, you can just do a little before and aftering. Dang, that's substantial. Or you can use the tab button. Whoa, cool. So now that we have a template that looks pretty good, we're gonna move over next into the edit tab. Now in the edit tab, you've got your standard what they call light, which is, you know, your white balance, contrast, highlights, shadows, all that good stuff. And we can tweak this a little bit. One tab that I really like, and I find myself using a lot here, is this Enhance AI feature. What that does is actually kind of adjusting the color and contrast intelligently in order to like bring focus to the subjects of your image. At least that's what it looks like it's doing for me. And as we crank this up, you can see it's giving it a little bit more contrast, and even all the way up. I mean, I probably wouldn't take it all the way up, but it's not bad. We've got this sky enhancer, which I'm pretty sure is just kind of like darken those skies, saturate them a bit. I mean, you could make it look real dramatic, but that's not what I'm gonna do right now. Oh, we've got a structure here, which is kind of like a clarity slider, but because it's using AI, it's avoiding adding that clarity, adding that crunch to parts of your image that would really fall apart. So if it was a portrait, for an example, you're not gonna get that terrible like look that you often get when you crank a clarity slider to the max. As we move down into the color tab, this is where I'll often use HSL. So that's your hue, saturation, and luminance. So basically we could say, hey, blue, the blue sky, we want you to be way brighter or darker or something like that. The green, same kind of thing. We can adjust these individually. Once we are in this edit tab here, over to the right, you've got your essentials, creative, portrait, pro, and then local masking. The essentials are where you're gonna edit things like contrast, vignettes, white balance, just the overall balance of the image. We're not doing anything too wacky here, but once we dive into creative, that's where things start to get pretty fun. We pull into creative. The first thing you have here is Sky AI, and this is the first thing I had ever seen from Luminar, and it's actually why I ended up buying Luminar for last year, was for one specific image that I just could not get to a place that I liked. And that was this image right here, and then 3 minutes later in Luminar, it was this image right here. So we can hit Sky AI here and we can just choose. Let's hit a dramatic sunset 3. Boom. Wow, like what? It's not even the same image. Oh my gosh. I've changed skies in a million photos in this app, and somehow this one still surprised me. Like, that really looks cool. What's incredible is that it's not just knowing what sky and what isn't, but it's masking in through these trees and around these hard edges, which if I was trying to mask that out manually, I would not do it because I wouldn't do it, but I want to do it. And now I can do it. There. I kind of love this dramatic sunset 5 here because it feels realistic. It feels like a tropical storm is coming, or a tropical storm has just left, and now you have this beautiful golden sunlight coming through. And I'm gonna open the advanced settings here because there's a few fun things that you can do. There's some settings like close gaps and sky locals, which can help refine that mask if it didn't quite nail the edges around some branches or wires or whatever. Finally, you get a sky defocus, and I cannot stress how important this feature is. I have just seen so many bad composited images in my life where like there's a giant moon in the background, but the whole background's like super shallow depth of field and the moon is just sharp as anything. So when you are compositing images in, you really need to pay attention to the depth of field. And me, as someone who likes to shoot relatively wide open in my photography, I find myself often just cranking that sky defocus slider. In this case, it's actually quite a deep depth of field landscape, so it doesn't really matter. And then finally, with this sky replacement setup, one of my favorite sliders this year is the relight scene. So here we put a starry night image and it looks kind of ridiculous, but what's cool is that we can crank this relight scene slider and you can see it's starting to darken the trees, add more of the blue purple hues, and it overall just has this look of a long exposure image. It's like, I don't understand how it works so well. So this is a photo, not a great photo. How about this one? Also not a great photo. But I bring this up because a few years back, I had to do some photos and videos at a chicken farm site. Total overcast day, really boring. All the photos look fine, but it's the only day we had to shoot and we had a certain number of deliverables that they were expecting. So what you can do in here is, and right before anything at all, I'm just gonna jump into sky and we can just, boom. I mean, it's almost too good to be true. Just by swapping out the sky in one click here, this image has gone from something that the client would be like, yeah, that's my barn, to, yeah, that's my barn. I love that barn. So after the Sky AI tab, we have Augmented Sky. Now what we can do with this is we can add elements into our images. Things like birds and clouds and rainbows and what have you. Heck, let's throw some mountains into the background if we really want to. Why, what? Okay, let's not put mountains in this image because the client would know that's not their barn. Moving along after that, we have what's probably my second favorite feature of Luminar AI, which is this brand new Atmosphere AI. So because Luminar AI is actually 3D depth mapping your image, it's not just saying, this is a face and this is a tree. It's saying, okay, how far do these hills roll and how far separated are the trees from the person, from the mountains, etc., etc. So what you can do now is, let's say we add a bunch of fog, and you can see that really fogging out the background, which is great. But with this depth slider, we can actually bring that fog forward. So you'll see it'll start until it eventually overtakes the cans. We can move that back, and you can see, so it starts just in the sky, it takes over these trees down here. So you can see it's just sneaking up along the grass. We can make this just a bit of a hazy day. Sometimes it's good to just fidget with like the exact sky you're using so it's not too unbelievable. I think this works a lot better. And let's just have a relook. Let's see where we were and where we're at now. It's, I'll tell you what, the image is substantially better. We can also come in here and add a sun ray. So with that, let's just pop a sun somewhere. That's fine. Cranky. Obviously, you've got these bonkers sun rays. I just like to go strong at first and then I dial it back. And again, because it understands your image, you can just watch these lights there. So let's just toss a little bit of a sun right here. But now, before and after, we are really taking this somewhere, and I am happy with it. We've got this dramatic slider, which, as you can probably assume, makes it real dramatic. One thing I do love is this mood tab here. So you actually can import LUTs. Thankfully, it already comes with a whole bunch, but I know a lot of you photographers and filmmakers have probably collected a lot of LUTs yourself over the years. So you can actually bring in your own LUTs or your favorite filmmaker, photographer's LUTs. And even better than that is this, is that when you slide your finger across here, you get to see the LUTs in real time. I don't know why this isn't standard in every app in the world, but I always have to like click the, wait for it to load, etc., etc. But here's where we're really just putting a bit of a mood in the image. And this like riverside, I just think is really beautiful. I don't know, I can't say enough good things about the app for scenarios just like this. So there, voila. Sky replacement, sun adding, mist, haze adding, very quick, very easy, and it can take your commercial photos from a poorly lit day into something really quite special. You know what? Let's just grab my wife's face here. Beautiful. Now, let's head over to the portrait section, because if any of you have done a whole lot of like portrait retouching, you know it is very tedious work. So much so that I just avoid it, not because it's the right decision, but because I don't want to. So we'll click the Face AI here. And what's very cool about this is there's this face light slider. So what it can do is figure out the faces in the frame and then brighten them for you. And this works whether you've got one face or 10 faces. There's this slim face setting, which I don't know, that's up to you. Like if I turn it on here, we could and it does like a really surprisingly good job with this. The eyes section here is actually a lot of fun because not only can we choose to just fully change the color of, wow, of my wife's eyes, wow. Oh, brown, green, gray. This is fun. Cat, that's not a color. Right here, what we can do is up the iris flare. Now you're gonna see right here at the bottom of the eyes, it's kind of mimicking what would have happened had you had a nice bounce card or something under your model's face, and it can just really make the eyes have a bit more life in them. You can enlarge the eyes if you want to, and you can go real big with these, like YouTube thumbnail big. Ready? I kind of love it, but this is really like you're trying to make a wacky YouTube thumbnail look. But again, I'm just gonna leave that as is. We can whiten the eyes. Eye enhancer, as we slide this up. The eye enhancer slider here is basically adding micro contrast to my wife's eyes already, just helping them pop. There's a dark circles remover, which I'll tell you what, not ashamed to say it, I've used it on pictures of me. Ready? And that's just helping lighten underneath the eyes here a little bit. And then finally, the improve eyebrows. Ba-boom, if you want to have a real punchy looking eyebrow. I have quite thick little caterpillars here, so I don't often use this, but for a lot of people with thinner eyebrows, they're gonna love this. We also have here the lip saturation. We can make these just pop a little more red if you want. And then here, teeth whitening. Teeth whitening is wonderful because, well, I drink too much coffee, but more than that, I find with my own image processing, I like to lean onto the warmer side of things. So while I could have just white balanced for proper white, what I can also here is just fix these teeth here. Fantastic, let's zoom out. Jump into the skin AI here, and this is wonderful because skin retouching is a pain in the butt. There's just a button here called skin defects removal. Ready? Let's see what happens. Oof. And with one click, you can remove things like freckles or pimples or any skin imperfections that you had that day, and it does a really good job. Finally, we can crank up the amount here. It's giving the skin a more like glossy, smooth look, but not at the expense of flattening everything. So you're not losing the details of your pores or the texture of your skin. I should send this photo to my wife right now. I'm not even gonna export it. I'm just gonna screenshot it. Ready? Send. Let's see if she gets back to us. Now again, this photo edit took me a matter of minutes, like really just a couple minutes. And I look at it now and I go, yeah, that's great. Like I don't know anything else I would want to do to this. Let's see what else we've got in here. This is an example where I want it to feel larger than life. So let's go to a big dramatic sunset. You know what, that's looking pretty good. And we're gonna defocus that sky to match the amount of defocus that we see here on the building. Obviously want to put this back into 4x5. I mean, that's just like kind of an awesome image. I think it's so funny. Very easy. Now, if we go back to that catalog, you can also right click this and you can either just hit Command C, but the point is you go adjustments, you can copy them, go to another image, paste them, and now without any work, this image has the same sky defocus, and they'll just make sense. And so that's Luminar AI, built entirely from the ground up, a completely new piece of software that promises to just not only simplify, but enjoyify the creative process. If you've enjoyed this video, the first thing that I would appreciate you doing, go down, click the link in the description, check out Luminar AI. It is a super powerful bit of software that has saved me so much time. I think it's really easy to take yourself and your work just hyper seriously and be like, this is the way art must be done. And for me, I just think that's a bit ridiculous. I think you should experiment with new tools. I think you should be excited about the future of image manipulation software because it opens so many doors for us. AI is and will continue to change the landscape of image manipulation, and I think it's for the better. If only that it takes the worst parts of the process and automates it for you. Thanks for watching. The video's done.